Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moonbow Network Podcast, Episode 6, Open Beta Test Stuff and Tier List Stuff. Please excuse the janky nature of all these screen shares. This is the easiest and quickest way I could think of doing it. However, this is the one that's going to hopefully cause the most arguments among the Mecha BREAK community so that it's only up from here. Joining me today is three wonderful people from Team ORCA. First, I'll introduce Charlotte, and then Charlotte will introduce the other two members. So, Charlotte, welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having me again. My name is Charlotte. I'm the team captain for Team ORCA and also the admin over in the Mecha Scrim community. But yeah, looking forward to making this tier list, making some people very angry at me, and getting judged quite a bit, I'm sure.
Yes,
Deacon,
indeed.
if you wanna...
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, just go.
Sup, I'm Deacon. I'm a member of Team ORCA, and I'm here to make a tier list, I guess.
I'm Thellian, and I'm here to also make a tier list, and hopefully also piss off some people.
I'm sure once this gets uploaded to YouTube or, the wider Mecha BREAK Discord sees it, it will cause an uproar. But we don't care about those people for now. We care about the people who are here in both the Twitch and the YouTube streams. So yeah, let's get started. So first of all, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the open beta test. How did you like all the modes? Did you enjoy how the strikers felt? Did it work well for you? XYZ,
Yeah, I mean, I think I was in a bit more of a minority that I really enjoyed the last open beta. I kind of enjoyed the meta that was there for the most part. I actually enjoyed playing Mash Mac as much as I'm gonna get judged for that as well. But
I'm on your side, Charlotte. I love Mash Mac.
The ultra heavy meta being like a very patience based game a lot of the time felt pretty fun for me as like a Lumi main too. And also Lumi just being back and at the number one spot as far as healers go was great for me.
Nice. And what about you, Deacon?
I have to say I kind of profited off the heavy meta because I'm a heavy player. So I did like the current meta, and I did like the beta. Mash Mac, to me, had some things it was missing, but in all hindsight, it was much better than the previous version I had played. So yeah, pretty happy about that beta, at least.
Nice. And finally, Thellian.
What I enjoyed the most about the open beta was just the ability to, play the game again and reconnect with some old people that you met, back in the August beta and just, have a good time.
Nice. How wholesome of you.
That's far too wholesome, Thellian. Not allowed.
So, right, let's dive straight in. We're going to go in order from how the tier list maker has ordered these strikers. So first off, we're going to go with Alysnes. We'll start with Charlotte, then we'll go Deacon and Thellian, and then we'll just do that for the entirety of the stream. Where are you putting Alysnes?
I'm going to address the elephant in the room right away, that there's a tier above everything else named Welkin. I'll let everyone take a guess on what's going to go there. But with that in mind as kind of the baseline, Ali still has like so much in its kit. Like you're able to be a point capper, you're able to split off by yourself a lot, you're able to do good damage in the middle of the brawl. Like just the utility of Ali is so good that I feel like it has to be S tier in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. And Deacon, how about you?
I'm gonna have a bit more. That's a bit higher than I was expecting, and that's higher than I'm putting him. But he's a good mech all around. But he is just an all around mech. He's not. You don't see him excel in anything that other mechs don't excel higher than. He's just kind of just there. So I'm putting him B tier. You like having him on the team, but he's no Welkin, but he's also no Panther. Like you're not unhappy of him on the team, but you'd be like, kind of wanted a Welkin instead. That's the way I see it.
Oh, wow. Already a relatively large disagreement. I wasn't expecting it this early, but it's great. And finally, Thellian.
So for me, I'm going to be the middleman here as primarily a melee focused player. I really, really enjoy having an Alysnes on my team when I'm playing Welkin, or likewise having a Welkin on my team when I'm playing Alysnes, because both of them together pair super, super well in the box. And, you just get to have a good time with whoever, you and your bro just decide to throw in that box, and it's all good fun.
So where are you putting him?
I am going to put him in A tier.
Okay.
He's a solid mech, deals great, melee damage. It's perfect.
See, he does like everything though, right? Of you can send him out to the side, you can send him to chase people. Like the utility of that is just so much. I feel,
That too.
you know.
Yeah, that is right, but then that also brings him to the fact he's a master of all trade, like a jack of all trades, master of none. It's not really like you like to chase someone. You'd much rather having a flyer or someone that can go quicker, and to like hold out points and stuff. You'd much rather have someone that actually has proper defensive shields to just stop it from tapping the point. Like if he's on a point, like trying to capture that, someone shoots at him from anywhere, it's stopped.
I mean, I'm thinking him in terms of the whole 6v6
Oh
kind of
yeah, that's true.
put together, of like you need someone that can do everything at the end of the day, right? And like you can't send Welkin out by himself in the same way you can send out Ali, right? You can't
That
send
is true.
Welkin to hold a point forever, whereas like Ali can just burn through his lives forever. You know,
Mhm. I'm
obviously
just
Welkin has a lot others going for him, but that's why I see Ali at the S tier.
Mhm. Makes sense. Uh,
So
I can
is
just
there
the way. Oh,
no, go
sorry.
go go.
I was gonna say I just see him. It's like you don't. He doesn't possess the same threat as other strikers. I think belong in S tier like possess, but he's not bad at all. That's why I think I put him B tier. He's great all around. He's a pretty good mech. But you're not like you don't look at Ali and looking at like, oh my god, how is he able to do this? It's like, oh, it's Ali. He's just doing this.
Okay. So I mean, I definitely, 100% see every single point of view. The major question is though, would you want Ali in your team as a meta pick, or would you rather, because of the ability to kind of do everything relatively well, would you want somebody else to replace him?
My thing is like for me when we were talking like team comps and obviously we have our core six that and Salad being our alley main is part of that, but like not even for a second did I think like replace alley with something, we were early on thinking about the team comps, I was thinking like, how do we work like a Falcon into this, and my thought wasn't like replace alley for 1 second ever. It was like maybe let's replace Inferno or something else. So for me, it was definitely a meta pick, but
Mhm. Well, I can't say I didn't like not having it. I can't say I didn't not like having Ali on my team. I love that. It's putting Salon and Ali is the best, but I think I'm diluted by the fact that he is one of the best Alysnes players. I think if my Ali isn't as good as Salad is, sometimes I'm like, maybe I would have much rather something easier that does more on my team.
Yeah,
I see.
fair enough.
Fair enough.
Right, so that's our first one. Pretty well rounded. We have one S, one B, and one A for Ali. Pretty good, considering he is the first striker that you get access to. Now we're going to move on to a very polarizing striker, Aquila. Actually, you know what? I'm going to call it Aquila. I don't care what the voiceover says in game. Aquila. Where are you putting Aquila, Charlotte?
So this one, my heart wants to put this in D just to see people get angry. However, I legitimately think it's an A.
Okay.
My so the damage is really 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 good, right? You get a lot of utility out of it. The claw is there too for the occasional stun. The downside and why it's not quite at the S tier for me is it's not able to necessarily it's just there for a ton of damage, right? It doesn't have that utility that goes beyond that. And claw is a little bit of a help, but it's not to the extent that it can make or break a game. Aquila players themselves are usually pretty highly skilled, so I think their impact is felt a good amount, but
Mhm.
um, I don't think it has the kit to really give it into that S tier to kind of do all these different things.
Fair. Deacon?
I'm also gonna put him A tier. He's strong. He's a very strong mech. He does have really good tools in his kit. But I'm the S. So like I said, I'd love having an Aquila on my team is really good. Really good aerial position, really good all around view on the map, and very good point deniability and control. But he's not where I would like where I'm thinking S tier characters need to be.
Interesting. Okay. And Thellian?
I will also be putting Aquila in A tier because to me he's great all around kit. You know, he's got the claw, he's got his multi-lock, high noon, but he's to me like with Alysnes, and I'm gonna get it more into this later as we go over some certain strikers. He's not integral to the core game plan of what kind of made up this meta in my eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, something that really felt big to me during the invitational that actually going into it I didn't expect was we ended up having to have Happiness, our Aquila main, switch over to Skyraider a decent bit. And I did not feel the difference like really at all between him playing Aquila and him playing Skyraider as far as the impact on the game. You know, they both had their strengths, but essentially it felt very easy to kind of flex something into that Aquila spot, you know.
So I've got two questions then. One is with the way that the claw was changed from August to beginning of this year in terms of the beta, do we think the claw itself is a good tool? Question
For
mark.
sure.
I mean, it's not a
it's a
bad
stun.
tool.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The stun's always a stun. It's no matter how bad it is, if it hits, it hurts.
it
But
just it's very hard to like make plays around it because at first going into the last beta we kind of thought like, all right, let's time this claw with you know our melees getting on top of people and kind of really capitalize on the teamwork that we have. And claw's just too unreliable to really do that in a way.
Mm.
Of it's like still very useful, but it doesn't like push it to a point of like being a huge impact.
Okay, interesting. Because I mean, I'm not the one making the tier list here, but I've always thought of the claw as pretty bad. Maybe that is because Aquilas don't know how to use it that well outside of high level play. It just feels like it gets thrown out and 90% of the time will miss, which means it's a very specialized tool, but it also means that it isn't very good in general. But in the very specific cases where you would be able to get a stun for a few seconds, it can be really devastating.
I think I see it too more as a tool to peel people off of you. If you have someone diving onto you, throw a
Mhm.
claw at them, reposition, get your team to support you, you know? So in
Interesting.
that way it has a good amount of utility, but I think a lot of Aquilas are probably trying to use it more aggressively and maybe seeing the downsides there.
Yeah. Okay. I can 100% see that for sure. Literally, I think everyone is all in agreement, right? All in A tier.
Yeah.
So again, would you class this as a meta pick, or at least from of course, in the context of the open beta, was Aquila a meta pick? Was it a must-have in your team?
I don't think it's a must-have, but it is a very nice to have. That's the way I put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it's definitely meta. It's not a must-have in my eyes.
Interesting. Okay, Thellian.
No, yeah. So for me, I think he's a great pick, but definitely not a must-have in like I guess what like I had said earlier when I had placed him in A. He doesn't make up the kind of like the core game strategy of what kind of defined this little bit of the meta in the open beta.
Mm, gotcha. Beautiful. Right, and now we're going to move on to my favorite striker so far until Stellaris comes out is Falcon. What are we thinking about Falcon? As if I don't already know. Charlotte,
Well,
how you feeling?
I think I'm gonna surprise people with this.
Okay.
I'm putting Falcon at C tier.
Wha-
Um,
Really?
so there's a couple of things that go into this, right?
Mhm.
Of one, you need a really good Falcon to make a proper impact and not have them like be easily killed, right? Um, the other aspect is when especially in the invitational, a lot of times the Falcon just felt more of an annoyance than an impact on the games we were playing. You know, there was very limited times where it felt like it was, you know, doing something in a way that felt impactful. And that one time was really when it was like splitting off and something like I have Mizra and capping a point to the side. But from a damage perspective, it never really felt like it was doing much to the group. You know, from even a diving perspective, you know, it would harass happiness on his Aquila, but um, it never felt like he wasn't able to take that pressure, even from like some of the best Falcons in the world, you know? And that's a something saying something about Happy's skill too, but I just never felt the impact that well from Falcon during any matches.
That is certainly not what I was expecting, but this is what this podcast is about: the difference of opinions and the potential argument over them. Maybe. And Deacon, how you feeling about Falcon?
I'll put him a bit higher, but I was planning on B tier for this guy. He's
Damn.
the thing is, I said I'm very diluted. I'm a super heavy player, so to him he's a pea shooter. But when I'm looking at him from like a team perspective, it was very hard when like for Falcons to put in the work you'd expect them to from the solo queue games we were playing. Like in the tournament, there was a very few select Falcons, Ramen included, that were able to actually perform and put in the work that like you'd expect on a Falcon to be able to put in like the carrying, the like the high damage, the high mobility, the no like not dying a lot. Like I think I remember in the tournament a few times I was just able to shoot him out of the sky, and I was like, ooh, that's not too good. And like if I didn't shoot him out of the sky, it's just because he didn't do any damage, and I was like, okay, so I'll take that as a good trade. So I think he was like on a team or focused around Falcon where he knows he's going to be able to put in good work. He is deadly, but otherwise he's an okay all around mech. That just it leaves something you feel like it's missing, but it's just the way it is currently in the meta. It was in the meta.
Wow. Okay. And Thellian, am I going to be surprised
Yeah.
at where you're placing Falcon?
No, I actually quite agree with Deacon's points on where to put Falcon. Like again, like Charlotte also said, it's very, very difficult to find a solid Falcon. And again, it takes a lot of work to make them work. And as I have also stated about Aquila, to me, he still doesn't really make up the core game strategy of like what defined this meta. And I will get into more of that, like I have been saying, once we maybe see some more strikers down the road. There's 4 in particular I do want to talk about that. But yeah, no, I do have to agree with what Deacon kind of said. It's kind of a little difficult to really make them work, and you have to put in a lot of that effort to make them work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I would have expected consistent at least A tier from everyone, but this is opening my eyes a little bit.
I think too, you know, we're putting in the context of the last open beta, right? Of this ultra heavy meta, right? And so when you're stacked up on your Stego with your Welkin throwing smoke and Stego smoke and box going up and Lumi heals, the Falcon's damage just isn't able to get through really anywhere there. Right? So the Falcon can only be impactful once the fight breaks up a little bit, and usually that's not always the best for the Falcon. Of like if you're on the team with a Falcon putting pressure on the ultra heavy comp, the only reason the ultra heavy comp is probably splitting up is because they got a kill and they're going in to kill more, you know. So
He's very good for backcapping, but from last meta you kind of just wanted to group up. For someone going to backcap, you kind of just sacrificing your current like pushing power and staying power.
Okay, so then I have a question regarding that. So the ultra heavy meta was obviously not what people were enjoying at the end of the OBT. What would a Falcon's kind of priority be against the meta? Like if somebody wanted to play Falcon and they were generally pretty good at it and they wanted to make a point, what would their job be as a Falcon in your opinions?
Um, I mean, so two
Sorry.
things, right? Of like you put pressure, your Falcon puts pressure on whoever the backline damage dealer is. Like if they have an Aquila or a Naru or something of their own that's kind of staying away from that ball, right? And so the Falcon's job is to put pressure on that person,
Hmm.
and then it's really about the rest of the team, potentially purposely stalling out certain things so that multiple points are up at the same time, so Falcons can take advantage of that. Um, so, but again, it feels, at least to me, I know I put a little bit further down. It just never felt like Falcon could be as impactful in any way, beyond that split push pressure.
Mm. Okay. Wow. Yeah, definitely a surprise. So we've done Ali, Aquila, and Falcon so far. Instead, I kind of want to do the brother and sister next. Yeah, all right, let's do it. So let's do Hurricane first. Charlotte, where are we putting Hurricane?
Hurricane, Hurricane is one I'm a little more unsure about, because I could see the use cases of it. It feels very situational, and how it's useful. It never felt particularly bad, but never felt particularly good either. So I'm somewhere between C and B, probably leaning more towards C, just because it felt too situational to get it into a lot of team comps.
Okay,
Um, yeah, I think I'm at C.
gotcha. Let me. What I'll ask now is instead of going to Deacon and Thellian, because these two strikers are very much intertwined lore-wise and in terms of how they're supposed to work together on the battlefield. How do you feel about Inferno from what we know from OBT?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had MDB playing Inferno, which puts a little bit of a spin on it,
Yeah.
versus most people. I saw a lot of value in Inferno, but I also saw a lot of ways that it failed. So it really sits somewhere between A and B for me. Um,
Okay.
Probably I'm leaning more towards a B here. Of it, it had a lot of tools, a lot of damage, but it fell short in other ways, being dove on pretty easily and being a common target even from our side when there's an enemy inferno. It was usually a easy target. So
Interesting. And then before we move on to Deacon and Thellian, is there anything you would do to the duo to make them better, to make them have a specific presence on the field of battle?
yeah, I mean, Hurricane really feels like it should have more ability to play its role as a defender, right? It never felt really, it felt like it was the same exact role as Inferno. It never felt like it was playing any kind of actual defender role.
Hmm.
It felt very much of here's some damage with a little extra utility, but it just did what Inferno did, but weaker, essentially. Was how I saw it. So giving Hurricane a little more identity with its drones or and stuff,
Mm.
I
So
think
would
would be
the
helpful.
yeah, so would the drones be the thing that you'd maybe want to buff, increase the number of? Would it be the health pool? Would it be the ammo amount
I
or
think the
something? I'm
drones.
not sure. Yeah,
I
the
think I think
drones.
it's really the drones. Yeah.
What I would actually like to see from Hurricane is his like shield that he pulls up when he's deploying out a decoy. That shield allows him to parry like a melee attack. However, it does not function like a shield like Alysnes or Panther does. What I would actually like to see is that shield to function as a shield for him.
Right. Interesting.
I think that would give him a lot more survivability and have him be a little less bullyable by melees, especially now that we're seeing kind of the changes that have been done a little bit to plunge with the Panther overview when you see the Panther plunge the Alysnes.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember
Yeah.
seeing that. Well, Thellian, seeing as you have a quite a what's the word? Passionate way to change Hurricane. Let's go to you next. So we'll do Hurricane and then we'll go into Inferno.
So for me, I have a bit more of a soft spot for Hurricane, just because like I do like to play the odd Hurricane now and again. I found him, pretty easy to pick up, and it really rewards some good positioning. You can also position well, with your Welkin to double up the box with your Hurricane shield, like on Cape Blanc, for example, to really try and secure that point. We've been able to use that to decent effect, but sometimes it's just Hurricane unfortunately falls a little bit short right now due to just how bullyable he is by the melees. Because all he really has right now is his parry shield and his decoys, and that's really it.
Mm.
So, like for me, again, I do kind of understand why C tier for Hurricane, but to me, like sometimes I think he can kind of pull out. And I want to actually put him in B tier at least. I think he still has a pretty solid niche on like Cape Blanc, for example.
Oh, nice. And what about Inferno?
So for me, I didn't really get to see too much Inferno play other than like the invitational, and I want to agree with Charlotte. Like I did see the vision with kind of like this might be the answer to this kind of like heavy sort of ultra heavy meta that we were looking at, but unfortunately like a lot of it just kind of falls short due to like his 6 shots in each of his guns and the very slow reload time on all of them. It was actually quite faster for Inferno to just simply die and then get all of his ammo back. And then he had his 2, which was also incredible, but due to the presence of Welkin in that ultra heavy meta, it kind of falls short because all Welkin really has to do is press a button and fart a big cloud, and all of a sudden Hurricane is just, or not Hurricane, sorry, Inferno is just completely like useless. I can also say the same thing about Hurricane really right there, is Welkin just, the sheer presence of Welkin alone just kind of really negated what Hurricane and Inferno bring to the table. So for me, like once again, I think Inferno has a solid niche, and I want to put him in B as well. But I think they could have been higher if not for Welkin's just sheer presence.
His aura.
His aura, yes.
So what would you potentially change on Hurricane and Inferno? I know you're being a bit more charitable than Charlotte has, but if there was anything that you would want to even buff or nerf to give them a bit more of an identity.
I would like to see Inferno's consistency kind of increased a little. Maybe drop his like damage on his shotguns possibly, but just increase the ammo count or just simply the ammo recharge time at the cost of damage, just so that he's a little less bursty and just a little more consistent with the damage, if you kind of catch my meaning by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That is very much an MMO term, if that makes any sense. Like you have burst DPS and then you have sustained DPS. And you would want Inferno to be a bit more sustained DPS so that it's consistently outputting very similar damage. So then would you say that you would want Hurricane to be a bit more bursty but a bit more tanky?
I think I would like Hurricane to simply be a bit more tanky, because you have to look at, I guess, the lore impact of these two strikers as well. They're both made by Salem Electric. One is designed to be the more offensive, heavy-hitting one, and the other is designed to be the more defensive, kind of bunker down and secure the position one. I would definitely like to see Hurricane be that more kind of mobile defense platform, in a sense.
Okay, yeah. Mobile defense platform is very apt, I think. And Deacon, what are your thoughts? Where are you putting Hurricane first?
Hurricane, I'm also putting him. I think everyone's been putting him in C tier. I'm also putting him in C tier. I'm putting him in C tier not because of like the only thing I have an issue with Hurricane is that there's Welkin first of all, but that's an issue on Welkin's side, not his. But it's just he's hard to pick up into any map. You kind of need you need a shipyards. You need maybe a sinkhole. There's not he's very hard to put into other maps that you'd want to put him into. You can't just like splash him into anywhere and be like, oh, that's a hurricane. Yeah, let's just put Hurricane in there. It's like, oh, we can't just really put him we can't put him in a into like a Sky City. It's hard to put him into Misra. So that's why I think he deserves the C tier for like as a mech.
Okay. Let's go into Inferno, and then I want to ask you specifically about the stages as well, since you've brought it up.
Yeah, Inferno, I'll put Inferno A tier. He lacks the defensive capabilities Hurricane does in terms of like the amount of health and the amount of like the shielding he can put out, like parrying and the big AoE shield. But in return, he does have his high energy count and the same or even higher amounts of damage he can put out.
Mhm.
And it allowed him to play a more sniper-like gameplay other than in like a Hurricane, which has to be more of a tank killer. So you can put him into a lot more matches and get in a lot more work out of the Hurricane. I mean Inferno, sorry.
Inferno, yeah. No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so then before we move on to the stages thing, again, Hurricane, Inferno, what would you do to separate them to give them more of an identity, more of a presence?
Honestly, hot take. I think Inferno is decently and honestly, I'm all pretty much fine. I think maybe a bit of stat changes, and that's not something I would know by heart what to do with.
Mhm.
But I think for Hurricane, he needs to have his identity taken away from damage and more into a defender if he wants to be an ultra heavy defender. Because currently his role is still the exact same. You put in as much damage as you can, and you either die or you live out off of the fact that like no one's able to kill you because they're dead. You
Sure.
don't really you don't like you're not really going up and you're like, oh, I want Hurricane for his bubbles. His bubbles don't exactly block enough for you to warrant picking a Hurricane for that. You want a
Mhm.
Hurricane because you know they're picking a Stego, they're picking a Tricera, and you have one of the easiest ways of dealing that damage. So I think I would want to have his one shield, the the big bubble, have some more defensive power, and in return take away a bit of his damage that he currently has.
Right. So would you potentially want them to make Hurricane just way more tankier and keep the ultra heavy, or potentially bring it down to just a heavy and not do much? Because I think that's kind of the contention with these two at the moment, or one of the big ones that happened during the beta anyway, is that the classification of some of the strikers was a little bit off. So would you just want Hurricane buffed to be more tanky, or would you want the classification to be changed?
The thing is, if I wanted someone's classification to be changed, it'd be Inferno. Inferno feels more like a heavy than a super heavy. He plays similar to Aquila,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I think it's just yeah. I would like Hurricane to have more health, more stats, more defensive power. That would be a good one. But I think as well, another thing I've seen is classifications seem to go off of the movement speed of mechs or like the movement type of mechs.
Yeah, to a
As
certain
I
degree,
think,
yeah.
yeah, because as I think, what is it? I think Inferno classified as a ultra heavy has less health than a Welkin classified as a heavy.
It's a heavy.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think the classification's not through like it's a deceiving classification as you assume ultra heavy is wow these guys are what's it like a million tons of steel, but no, I think it's actually how they move like in the game other than how they stay on the field.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I think yes, I think it's just Hurricane needs more defensive to actually take him off of Inferno's like not shadow I would say, but they're both currently seen as like close to the same mech. I would like Hurricane to be able to tank more to be seen as not just Inferno's brother but his own mech.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So now let's move on to the concept of picking specific strikers for specific maps. Obviously, I can't remember. It's been so long. Would you want to have a map pick available before you get the strikers, or would you rather have the strikers get picked and then the map?
Oh,
You just play what you play.
you would always want the map before the strikers because like
Mm.
I could not
Yeah, well,
imagine playing what's it Falcon and Sky Cities. Ooh. And then in return, like like a hurricane and Misro. It's the those are two things you don't exactly want that much.
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm
go
in
on, Charlotte.
agreement there.
Yeah,
Of
yeah, I'm
like,
in agreement as well.
there's too many times where we have kind of situational comp ideas, or at least and bans too, towards specific
Mm.
maps. So to kind of leave that after to like put that all before the map is chosen feels so hard to actually play around.
Okay. And then, Deacon, you were talking about specifically Falcon on Sky City and Hurricane on Mizra. Specifically, are there any currently in the tier list that you would say you wouldn't pick for a specific one outside of the two that we just mentioned? Or are the ones
On the
either now or the ones coming up generally okay on all of them?
on the tier list currently, you can kind of pick most. Like Aquila isn't as favorable in the shipyards compared to other stuff like a Hurricane. Like on shipyards, Hurricane Inferno is very deadly. Aquila not as much because there's a lot of indoor spaces that's still hard for Aquila to actually position and be safe around.
Mhm.
But for most on the tier list currently, off of the tier list, I could probably name like the flyers. So like Skyraider, Falcon do have hard times in Sky City because it's a smaller map, which is it's a smaller map and they're more of a control slash like smaller damage windows. So it's really hard for them to just go for an all-in constantly compared to other mechs like a Welkin in a Sky City. And then other than that, most of them can kind of be put into most maps. There's always going to be some that are like the best for a map, but other than the ones I think I've named, there's none that are like specifically really bad for a map.
Okay. And we'll go clockwise this time. So how about you, Thellian?
No, is there any striker that I wouldn't pick for a certain map? You know what? For me, I definitely wouldn't pick a Falcon for shipyards. That's for sure.
Okay,
That's
interesting.
yeah. I would not pick the Falcon. I think I would rather just simply have the Skyraider over the Falcon. Or yeah, in that kind of context. I know Deacon said he wouldn't pick Aquila on shipyards. However, I know I say shipyards, but it's harbor. But to me, the points that have only ever really mattered, at least in my experience, on Harbor was C point. And C point is where everything opens up. That is where like you would have to have a terrible like your opponent would have to have a terrible lead on you in order for it to not really matter. I've always felt though that C is kind of the one where everyone is kind of able to catch up a little bit, and then that's the one you want to win the most is the C point, and that is where it's all open space. I guess even you could say like, hey, throw the Falcon there, but I'd rather just have the Skyraider to maybe like bomb the big bunker comp and jam everyone's FCS for a little bit. But then you have the Aquila there, firing for free in an open space, not really anywhere for them to hide. That's kind of what I'm kind of going to, at least on the context of Harbor.
Fair. And what about you, Charlotte?
I generally agree with everything they both said. The only other, and we haven't gotten to Panther yet, and I'll voice some thoughts then, but Panther just feels like most maps you don't want to pick it.
We will definitely come to Panther, don't worry.
But I'll leave that for later. Outside of that, I fully agree with what they said.
Okay, fair. Let's move on to the next sniper now. I know I said we were going to do it in order that the tier list maker has already ordered it in, but I'm throwing that out the window. We'll go to Narukami next. Charlotte, how are we feeling about Naru?
Solid D tier. I'm sorry, Naru mains. It just never is impactful to the point that you need it to be. It damage is never competing with other high damage dealers. It's one thing is it has like really good alpha damage, so that initial burst. So sometimes it can be used to burst out like a Lumi. But the level of skill that you need to even put up numbers that are semi of the same page of Aquila is absolutely insane. And it's just never worth it. There's very few maps where it's even good on. Some of those being like Cape Blanc, it's pretty good on. I have Mizra, okay on. Just because it has a lot of room to work with, but it's so easy to play around and just kind of ignore most of the match if you have like a Narukami on the other side. And even an Aquila can out-trade a Narukami and kill it, so. Yeah, solid D tier.
Solid D tier. Damn, the first one of the stream. Are we going to be seeing another set of D tiers? I'm not sure. Thellian, how are you feeling about Naru?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Charlotte on just Narukami D tier. I find Naru just to be at least too much of a skill ceiling to even try and make work. And even then, when you're able to get Naru to work, it is too easily shut down by something like a Falcon just sniffing it out. You actually do see this to great effect in, I think, one of the first invitational matches, and they are running a Falcon and a Naru on their team with the 4 kind of core sort of comp. And you'll see that the Falcon is constantly trying to sniff out the Naru, which, works, but obviously, there's that Falcon there to shut down the other Falcon. But had that, Falcon not really been there, Naru is just too easily contested by it. And, even then, trying to get it to work is just... I would rather have an Aquila. I would just much rather have an Aquila.
Mm. Okay, Deacon, are we gonna save Naru a little bit, or are we triple D'ing it?
Dude, we are triple D'ing it all the way. I did not see, off of the few select very good Narukamis, I didn't see any proper use out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, they was like, why would you not just take the time to learn a bit of Aquila and just put in twice the work? Twice the effort, not even twice the effort, probably just a bit less effort and twice the value.
Yeah.
Damn. That is so rough. I mean, anything else you want to say about Naru, or shall we move on to
I want to say
feelings?
one thing.
Okay, yeah, go.
I want to say one thing for those Naru mains out there. This is entirely a meme comp, but I want someone to do this so badly. I want some team this current patch to run quad melee, Lumi, and a Naru for just tons of direct damage. The Naru can stay safe while the quad melee dives hard. I want to see it. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But
Okay. So
I would definitely
basically,
like to see that happen.
yeah, I think we all would like to see a really insane meme comp come out of when release happens, and hopefully we do get to see them. But unfortunately, I feel like in a game such as Mecha BREAK, just doing that and even thinking of a victory will not go well for you. So yeah,
all
if
you're
you
going to be
were
able to get.
maybe not even enough time to think, you might just get steamrolled. So yeah, every Naru out there, I'm sorry, but the 3 players from ORCA say you're bad and you shouldn't play Naru and you're trash. Uninstall the game. That's exactly what they said. Moving very swiftly on, we're going to go to the next flyer, Skyraider. How are we feeling about Skyraider, Charlotte?
Skyraider, I didn't feel as good about it earlier in the patch. But seeing how Happy played it, seeing how impactful it was able to be at the Invitational, I still think it's lacking some tools. So I'm kind of at a B plus, A minus, somewhere between the two. But I think it kind of crosses that threshold over into A for me. I think it's still, at least last patch, was still able to be very impactful from a damage perspective. The jamming bombs was always very useful on kind of helping to break up the ultra heavy meta. It had some maps where it wasn't great on, so it pushes it towards that B side to me, and I'm really torn between the two, but I think it had a lot of teeth in the last patch.
So the thing that I do want to ask each of you about as we go through Skyraider, the type of gameplay that Skyraider has never felt cohesive to me. Like every other striker, it feels like Skyraider is the one striker that ASG don't really know what to do with. What would you do, Charlotte, to, similarly to Inferno and Hurricane, give Skyraider that identity?
I think lean into the idea of it being a bomber, right? Of the way it's played right now is it's jamming bombs, right? But give it some damage bombs. Throw some real gameplay around there of this thing is, out there dropping bombs on ultra heavies, making their life miserable. And maybe that's a heavy attacker down the line. They make a heavy flying mech that's all around bombing. But yeah, I think to really establish its identity, it needs to lean into that more.
And what about the jamming bombs? Would you keep those as well, in addition to giving it a bit more DPS, or would you take them away because they were, like you say, very useful?
I think you keep them. I think they had a good spot, and they never felt too broken to me. Like they were very strong in how they were used, and you could have almost 100% uptime on them. That's been kind of nerfed in the upcoming patch, but yeah, I felt like jamming bombs were a good tool, a good addition to the game, and really were a good part of its kit. I think it was just the rest of it that felt lacking to me.
Okay, and Thellian, same questions.
Yeah, so for me, I felt like, when I first watched, I can't remember what team it was against Orca. It may have been extra turn, but we saw Happy really use the Skyraider just to like great effect on Kate Blanc. So much so that if you actually go back and watch it, when they switch over to Harbor, they are like stuck. They run out the full clock on the ban timer between Alysnes and Skyraider, which I thought was just absolutely hilarious because that is just how much like Happy was able to get into their heads and how much like of an impact those jamming missiles can have on the like the core comp. And like Charlotte said, I would definitely also like to see him become that bomber to have that identity, because right now his role in the kind of the game is just a jamming bot. I've spoken to lots of Sky Raiders and they all just, it's like, yeah, Skyraider's just not fun to play anymore, man, because all you are is a jamming bot. The weapons just are they're pea shooters now.
Mm.
Like it's not great, but to me, like I still want to put him in B because again, he fills like that good sort of niche on like just being able to drop those jamming bombs and just disrupt the enemy.
Fair. Yeah, but it seems like we're somewhat unanimous on this. I mean, Skyraider for Charlotte is A, B for Thellian. Are we going to see a kind of midway point from Deacon?
I'm putting him. I'm putting him C.
Okay, fair enough.
There's two factors here. It's the first factor is that he is, as everyone's saying, he's just a jamming bomb right now. It's very useful in very high situations where you need to have those jams going off, and those really do put in disruption. But other than that, his damage isn't going to be his damage isn't like a make or break feature, nor is his actual flying capabilities. It's just really the jamming bombs. So when you do want those jamming bombs, those are nice. But when if you didn't want those jamming bombs, he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I can definitely tell from having conversations with some of you guys like in Discords and stuff that Skyraider was just, like you say, a jamming bot. And it's a shame because I really like the concept of Skyraider, but it is a bit all over the place. And Deacon, will go to you again. What would you change, buff, nerf, about Skyraider?
I would swap, because in the previous beta, Skyraider had a very different. Like, if Skyraider was probably S tier last beta, he was very good because he had his damage still while having the jamming bombs. I think I'd much rather them take away the jamming bomb power in terms of like uptime in return for him having his guns back to what they were before. As I think it would bring back a lot of fun for like Skyraider players, because that's the big thing going on right now, is that he's currently just drop down bombs, do whatever. Your gun's not exactly that useful.
Yeah.
But back then, people really did love like the gunplay with him, and like the bombs were the OP thing, but they were the upside, and they were not what like made everyone like, oh, this is super fun. It was really his actual guns being able to do damage.
Mm-hmm. And Thellian.
Oh, sorry. So the question was Skyraider? I guess buffing him or
buff, nerf, change. Yeah.
I gotta say, yeah, I'm in agreement with Deacon on that. I think you could definitely still bring the bomber role a bit, but at least give him some decent guns, because a lot of people did like that, and I think that was one of the big things that people were very, very sad about. Like I had said earlier, they're pea shooters. They don't deal that much damage. Have them just have a bit more of an impact on the damage side, I think.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the prevailing opinion, is just a little bit more damage, maybe even a lot more damage. He is kind of a bomber and he should be given a bit more damage. Personally, I think that, and I know this is never going to happen, but I really would have liked the concept of having kind of a brother and sister dynamic. So Falcon was the what's the word? Kind of the physical damage flyer. So it has the actual bullets, it has the rockets, XYZ. But then Skyraider could be the energy flyer. So it has the lasers, but then the jamming thing is also energy based. And then the bombs kind of felt a little bit out of place, like the B-52 stuff. I personally would like to see that, but that's just me and my love of symmetry. I love that kind of stuff.
I think
Totally agree.
due time, there's going to be mechs that will be able to fill those roles out. I think currently, I'd much rather have mechs not be symmetry because that's it's a small mech pool currently. I think in a bit, I'll be very happy when there's going to be symmetry mechs. But currently, I think just having, if I'm going up in the next season, is 3 mechs that are symmetries of the current mechs, I would not be happy.
Oh yeah, the variety that we've got at the moment is pretty good, but the pool isn't that big, and I think we can afford to let the devs do what they are currently doing. Right,
Yeah.
let us move on to Panther. There is definitely a striker that I'm waiting for the end because it's going to be quite funny. But for now, we'll go to Panther. Where are we putting Panther, Charlotte?
D tier.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people are gonna give a shit because Panther from Anubis bullied the shit out of John on his Welkin in
Yeah.
one match. But Panther just had such a hard time making an impact in this meta, especially with the prevalence of Tricera to like kind of prevent that. And there was just never a situation where it performed really that well. It was very situationally, it could be sent off to chase one person or go off to a side point or whatever, but it could be answered pretty easily by a lot of different things. And as a Lumi main, especially the number of Panthers that have hit a lance on me, maybe happened once or twice, in all of my time playing the beta. And out of those times, I don't think either led to a kill, maybe one, just because the lance itself isn't even enough damage. So its damage isn't there quite there, like its utility isn't quite there. It gets countered by various different things. Like it's just never in a good spot, in my opinion. At least during the last patch.
Yeah, that seems to be the opinion that is coming through from even the more casual players now. I'm seeing in the main Mecha BREAK Discord, people are disliking where Panther is at the moment. Whereas I remember in some of the previous ones, people were really enjoying him because he had I think his EN economy was a lot better. I think some of his damage might have been a little bit better too. His chaseability was a bit better.
Yeah, he was definitely a lot better in the August beta, and I actually had a Smurf account that I exclusively played Panther
Don't
on.
admit you have a Smurf account, Charlotte.
I did during the August beta.
You're not allowed to have those.
I'm sorry, I definitely didn't have one. But I exclusively played Panther on there and got pretty high up on the leaderboard. But yeah, no, it just never. Back then it felt great. Nowadays it's nowhere near there.
Not feeling it. Yeah, fair enough. And Deacon, are you feeling it?
Yeah, he's going straight to D. Straight to D.
Oh no, not again.
This is from the entire opposite spectrum. I'm not a healer. I'm a super heavy player, and oh my god, did they tickle only? The amount of games I think I've had Panthers give up on killing me because they couldn't get past half my health with 3 lances.
Well, that is kind of rough.
Yeah, I think I would stand there, ignore him completely, and then shoot down their Luminae and or like any of their like squishier targets. And then he just realized that wait, what am I doing here? He serves as a Welkin counter, which is something we didn't even know until it happened in the tournament. But other than that, he had no proper role other than aura farming with the specific Panther players, I think, from Japan. Other than that, there's actually no reason to ever run him.
So could you elaborate on the Panther Welkin matchup?
It's just Panther, like Welkin, it doesn't have the self peel needed for Panther to just like to be able to get away from Panther. So Panther can easily just jump on him, knock him down if he's in the air, and then just lance him, and then just do this on repeat.
Yes.
And I believe his lance does have priority over Welkin spin, so it's just he just jumps in, goes Welkin like Panther lance does that, and he does end up having more health than Welkin because of Panther's like specific shields.
Mm.
So in a 1v1 scenario, it's not really playable for Welkin, but if there is an Alysnes just jumps on the Panther, and then Alysnes is a much better dueler than Panther is. As because the other thing as well is Welkin doesn't have a shield to parry any Panther attacks. You can't parry the lance, nor can you parry the actual like mini blades.
Oh yeah. True.
So Panther just gets free reign because Panther is much quicker at attacking. His smaller blades are much quicker, and then he can do smaller blades into lance, very high damage and very bad for Welkin. At least this will just block it with the shield otherwise.
Damn. Welkin confirmed bottom tier. Thellian,
For
what
sure.
about you in terms of Panther? Are we doing another Naru, or are we giving Panther a little bit of hope?
So for me, you know, I primarily play melee. I do like Panther, and I do enjoy, you know, just playing him or any of really the other melees in general. I really want to just put him in C tier, just kind of on that, like, you know, that notion alone, because I would at least, you know, if I had to choose between a Naru and a Panther, I would rather just have the Panther over the Naru. But, you know, I think I need to be a little like objective here and just, you know, put him down in D tier with everyone else. Maybe just ahead of Naru, because really, like, if I have to look at everyone else's tier list compared here, like if I had to, you know, choose between Naru, Panther, and then whoever else is in the C tiers of, you know, Deacon or Charlotte, I would rather just have those C tiers in there to fill that spot over Panther.
I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel you on a spiritual level.
I definitely agree too. Like I'd rather have a Panther than a Naru. So if there's an F tier and we can stick Naru down there, you know. But no, Panther just has no place in the meta or in the past meta.
I'd honestly rather have a Naru than a Panther. I'd put him all the way down to F. I've been so deluded by the fact that he can't even make a Stego move. It is so bad.
I do like the fact that we're
no pressure.
inventing this mythical F tier just to put two separate strikers into it, just in case. That's beautiful. So because Panther is once again one of these very unfortunate strikers, what would you do to change where you put Panther? We'll start with Charlotte.
So it's difficult because I'm actually of the opinion that Panther never really should be in a place to be competitive.
Wow.
The problem is Panther is very strong in like your casual queue, casual games. You know, you're playing ranked ladder even against non-teams. And even how it was last patch, it could still do good work in those situations. In August, it was just really oppressive in those situations. But the problem is if you buff it too much and give it more damage, more energy, it just starts becoming way, way too powerful in those lower tiers. And really fuse the experience for a lot of the players, I think. And then you start hearing all the nerf Panther, et cetera, et cetera. So to get it to a point to be competitive, I think you would have to buff it so much that it becomes miserable to play against in lower tiers.
Yeah,
So.
this is a problem in specifically fighting games. There are certain characters that if you were to buff them from being bottom tier, they would be utterly unbearable to fight. And we're kind of seeing that in if anybody plays Tekken Season 2, Hwoarang has some incredible new stuff because he was kind of sitting at the mid tier, and now people are very easily putting him top 5, top 10. But trying to fight a stance character with crazy offense is just not a fun time for the person trying to defend against it. So what you're talking about, Charlotte, it hits close to home because I love my stance characters, but I know they can't be top tier because then I would not enjoy it, and the people I'm fighting against definitely wouldn't. Deacon, how about you? What would you change specifically to Panther?
Panther, I think the only thing that made him bad this patch was just the fact that he can't lance into what's it, blade into lance? That was the big thing going on the last beta, was he could easily combo his lance to make a like a true lance combo, which was very useful for like stuff like let's say a Falcon. A Falcon would jump down, you could jump like the rare opportunity he would jump down, but he would jump down, you'd be able to jump on him and guarantee an attack into a lance was pretty much instant death for Falcon. Skyraider as well, I believe, and a few of the other squishy strikers. That was what he's missing. I think just bring that back. But otherwise, I'm not that big of a Panther player. I don't exactly know what I'd do much to make him good.
Okay. So would you say that the combo that you're suggesting, blade into lance, should come back in its current form, or not in the current form, in its previous form where it would one-shot squishy? Or would you want some kind of damage changes to make it, well, a damage nerf, honestly, to make it not an insta-kill on like a full health Falcon or a Luminae, for example?
I think I don't really know. I think last time he was okay. He was pretty strong for a melee, but that's also because we had a weak Alysnes and Welkin. I don't even remember if Welkin was good last time or not. I don't think he was.
In
But
August? Yeah.
yeah, in August, I don't think so.
Middle of the road. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think if you brought that back, I don't think it would change much in terms of like affecting their other people. I think it'd be perfectly fine to bring that back. But I said I don't know exactly what to do with that champion, that character. I mean, it is not a character I play enough, nor know enough of to actually be able to decide what would fix him.
That's fair. And Thellian, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, I have to agree with Deacon on that. Just in the few times I've played Panther as well, just I would like to see the dagger into lance combo just come back, and then go from there. If it's too much, then maybe tone down whatever other numbers in Panther, like his energy economy maybe, or even just his complex shields in general, because his complex shields are incredibly powerful. They allow him to basically have super armor. So it's very difficult for another melee to catch and contest him.
That makes
But I
sense
think
to
just
me.
start, just fix his lock-on reset delay. I believe that was what kind of killed the dagger into lance combo, and also dagger, I believe, does not stun anymore.
Are you talking about just on regular melee? You might be right.
On
Stagger,
Panther.
yeah.
Panther's dagger, his shield blade.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Just in terms of like a
Yeah.
regular left click or right click or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would I don't know how you would do it, but you would have to find some way to make his dagger lance just consistent again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course,
There's-
the downside to that is like you make it too consistent and he's one-shotting people, and
Yeah.
you go into your
There's the
casual
issue.
queue.
You land dagger and then suddenly there's a free lance.
Yeah, and that just doesn't feel good to play against if you're just playing against something that completely one-shots.
Mhm.
So,
There could always be changes in terms of maybe tracking or retracking hitboxes. You can
Yeah.
always change different things, but I feel very sympathetic towards devs when they have to implement melee stuff, because you want to toe that line between what feels good to do and what is optimal to do. So dagger into lance probably feels incredible to hit, especially on a moving target, and if you're able to get a one shot, it feels awesome. But then, like we're all saying, it doesn't feel great to have that done to you. So how do you balance that? And then if you bring that combo back, shield blade into lance, do you nerf the damage a little bit so that just because you got it back doesn't mean that it should do what it always used to do? Maybe it does half the damage because it registers the first blade hit and then it scales, like a fighting game combo, for example. Or is there less tracking on it so that if you're slightly off, you're not like directly in front of them and you get like a flank hit or something, it might whiff, something like that, some kind of variable.
yeah.
That's
hard.
what I heard. Somebody wanted to jump in on that. I'm not sure. No, fair enough. So let us. No, it's fine. It's fine. We are going to move on to the healers. and then we're going to do the 2 dinos, and then we're going to do the either worst or best striker in the game, depending on who you ask. We're going to go for
Yeah.
Luminae first, because Pinaka, of course, came later. What are your thoughts on Luminae, Charlotte?
Yeah, I kind of consider myself a Lumi main at this point, so there's a point there of love. Lumi's was, or at least last patch, was in a great spot of pretty good consistent healing, good mobility, good tools to help out the team between giving energy back, being targetable to try and cap points. You had your AoE healing, you had your AoE direct damage that could go through Welkin box and stop caps. Like there was so much there from the Lumi side of things. Maybe there could have been some tweaks to things a little bit, but I honestly feel like Lumi was a S tier striker and just had everything that she needed. I don't think there's anything I would change about her. And really just would made a huge impact on this meta and really made the ultra heavy meta be what it is. I think without Lumi in the picture, and even switching over to Pinaka, it wouldn't have been the same meta in any way whatsoever. So yeah, solid S
Fair.
tier.
Nice. I mean, at least you have 2 S tiers at the moment. The other 2, reserving that for a very special striker, I believe, but we'll have to wait and see. Deacon, how were we feeling about Lumi?
Solid A tier. Very good. Probably the better healer. And just, you always like having one on the team. I like not dying after taking damage. That's a big thing.
Fair enough. Pretty concise. Anything you'd change about her, or no? Just keep her the same.
No.
She's solid, not overpowered.
I'll always, in terms of changing mechs, I always have the mentality that I think that they, first of all, they have to know what they're doing. I trust them as a game company to know somewhat. Yeah. And second of all, when there's a roster, especially with 2 new mechs coming out, I don't think the mechs are currently designed to be in a state of less mechs in the game compared to a state of more. So I think I'm hoping, and from what I'm guessing is going to happen, I'm guessing that the new mechs are probably going to do stuff to older mechs, and I don't think there needs to be that many changes going on right now.
Sure, fair enough. And Thellian, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, Luminae is just simply an easy S tier. Luminae is just a must pick and kind of makes up, to me, the first of the kind of the 4 core strikers that made up basically or defined this meta. And she paired really, really well with it, with the haze being able to give basically widespread AoE healing. You could also turn that haze into like a damage haze to obviously try and deny it's like a point capper and whatnot. And you had wings, if you were going to run the double melee like the Alysnes and the Welkin, then you could also maybe have the Lumi be a little more offensive and pop the wings to give them a bit more energy to help out with that. But yeah, to me, again, easy S tier, must pick for any comp right now. And for things I would change about Lumi, I would not touch Lumi at all right now.
I
would just leave Lumi as it is and just try and bring up Pinaka in some way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very much in agreement with that myself. Lovely. We can move swiftly on to Pinaka then. Charlotte, what are your thoughts on Pina?
There's a lot of changes. Well, a couple small changes to Pinaka that are coming, and it's going to fix basically everything that is my problems with it. But in the last patch, I would put it at a solid B tier. I was able to put actually pretty close to equal healing numbers to Lumi. It was definitely less, but it wasn't like horrendously less. The damage was okay, never great. The walls were very useful, but it just never was able to hit the same level of impact that Illumi did. And so when you're choosing between the 2 healers, it just was pretty easy choice to just say, all right, keep with Illumi. Like there's no reason to pick Pinaka over Illumi. There's some great changes they've made going into the upcoming patch, so I think that'll change, and I think we'll see a lot more of both of them. being used at the same time or interchangeably, which is great. But yeah, I think B tier for last patch.
B tier. Can I just say, I'm loving how symmetrical your tier list is right now. Are we going to get that
Perfectly
with
balanced.
Deacon? Are we going to put another A in, or is Pinaka going somewhere else?
I'll put her C.
Damn. Okay.
She fits the criteria of the other C tier characters I've placed, where it's you kind of you don't have a reason to pick them. Like most games, for Pinaka, it's even worse because Luminae exists, and Luminae just outshines Pinaka like day and night compared. One is like a one target shield and very like inconsistent to left click heal versus one that drops a drone on you and heals like half your health. So I think Pinaka is, from what I've heard, Pinaka is getting good changes. So maybe that'll change what she is currently. But from last patch, I don't think we ever saw Pinaka's over Luminae's. Like it was super rare you'd see a Pinaka, especially one that performs.
Yeah. Well, I think the major, or one of the major things was that Pinaka just absolutely melted a Tricera, and that wasn't the case in the previous beta. Would you want to see that back, or are we happy with Pinaka's damage at the moment?
I'm a super ever player. That was the worst. That was the worst ever. Oh my god! I'm trying to deploy into a turret. It is just I get that warning on my screen because I'm staggered. I would lose it.
The PTSD flashbacks hit.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, like this sort of screen flicker every time you get staggered with the warning in the middle because you're like your mech's CC'd, and I'd be like, come on, let me in or out of turret.
I mean, yeah, totally understandable, but I always love to see a Tricera get melted by a Pinaka, so that memory holds a special place in my heart.
I will say this: I don't remember what Wall's previous damage, but so they did the Pinaka preview last night, and Walls did half of Ali's health bar when it dropped on it. So I think the damage is back.
I hope not.
I think we're back.
Man. I hope. I sure hope not.
We will have to wait and see for the 1st or 2nd of July, depending on where you live. And Thellian, how are we gauging Pinaka right now?
Yeah, so I have to agree with Deacon. Just I think Pinaka's just like C tier. I mean, the C tier really just only on the kind of the case of okay, you can at least run both the Lumi and the Pinaka at the same time. But just I would much rather just have the Lumi and then maybe something else for like damage or whatever CC or like a Skyraider or whatever. Just anything else really, except a Narukami.
I will say
Panther.
this. I want to say this because I actually looked back through the VOD while we were talking here to see on Skyraider. My Pinaka in our match versus Extra Turn did more damage than Happy did on Skyraider.
Yeah,
really.
More direct damage, at least.
That is Skyraider doesn't deal damage anymore.
Yeah,
we've determined this.
I'm just saying, it wasn't nothing. It wasn't nothing, But anyways.
But obviously, I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that Pinaka can make a comeback with the changes that we have seen from last night.
Yeah, so the changes that they're talking about are either from the website that have changed certain wordings and some of the previews look a little bit different, or it's the overviews on Twitter. So if you want to head over to their Twitter page, they've got like previews for I think 4 or 5 of the strikers right now, and you can see what release versions of those strikers are going to be, and they're counting down every day until release day. So if your favorite striker isn't there at the moment, be patient, it will be there. And just a sort of interesting question that I wanted to pose to you three. With Pinaka's walls, do you want them to stay as just walls, or would you like some extra functionality of building something with them? So instead of them just dropping in front of each other or making cover, would you like to see maybe some additional walls to build like an actual block or something? Would you like them to be able to build a tunnel or some kind of choke point, or are we okay with them at the moment?
I think from my perspective, as someone who played a lot of Pinaka, I think they're in a good spot. And there was actually a small change in that they were made a little bit taller. So it's gonna make them even more impactful already. I don't think Pinaka really needs any kind of changes to that, or even from an identity perspective, it doesn't need more utility there, different types of walls. The walls themselves are very useful, very good in a lot of different situations, beyond just damage, capping points and setting up chokes. So I think it's in a good spot.
Okay. Deacon and Thellian, either of you have any thoughts on this?
I don't like Pinaka walls, so there's. I was in opinion on release that I don't think you should ever have walls, but I'd be
Fair.
honestly, if they take away the damage from them, I'd be okay if they actually manage to build other stuff.
Okay. Short and sweet. Thellian?
Yeah, so for me right now, I don't touch the Pinaka walls right now because like I'm worried if you like you said, try to make a cube with the wall, that's adding a fourth wall to Pinaka, and that just means it's gonna hurt more for the ultra heavies.
True. It's just something that I know people were discussing a few days ago in the main Mecha BREAK Discord, and I just wanted to get some top level players' opinions on it. I'm okay with the way that they exist right now. I don't think we should be playing Minecraft in Mecha BREAK, but some people think we should. Cool. So we've gone over the healers, and now we're going to go over the dinos. We're going to go over Stego, I think, first, and then we'll move on to Trike. So, Stego. Where are we
Yeah.
placing Stego?
Straight into S tier for me.
Absolutely.
The damage is insanely high. The utility from smoke. It's got its front shield too. It used to be a little bit squishier, and then they buffed its health to put it to the point where something like Panther it can totally ignore. It can ignore so many different things. And paired up with like the Lumi that does percentage healing and all that health that it has, like it just has so much that it brings to the table for the team. Yeah, immediate S tier. Can't even think of why it wouldn't be.
Another short and sweet one, Deacon?
S tier. Just he's one of the best tanks, and you kind of just always want to have him on the team. I think the tournament showed it where he had a almost 100% pick rate and probably close to 100% pick ban.
That doesn't
So
surprise me.
yeah, I said he deals really good damage from a really easy position, and he's very good protection for when you do want to heal.
Fair
So yeah,
enough.
just short and sweet S tier.
Straight S tier. And Thellian, straight into
Yeah,
S
easy
tier
S
again.
tier. Not even like a question really. It's just S tier. It goes. High damage. Great utility with the mist, just being able to cover the whole team with that, disrupt FCS, and bring back some fluid armor. And of course, he's got the frontal shield, which even the Trike or your Lumi can kind of hide behind with the kind of again that 4-core kind of comp that kind of made up this meta. No contest or anything. He's just S tier.
Sweet. And then we'll move straight on to Trike.
Yeah, I am probably a little bit different from most people. I want to put Try more into like B tier.
Okay.
I think it deserves A tier, and I'll give it A tier though, just from how prevalent it was into these comps. It has a little bit of healing. It's pretty tanky. Its damage is decent. It never does anything like particularly crazy well, besides just sitting on the point on shipyards. But it's very consistent and very reliable, and doesn't take a very high skill ceiling to play too. So it's very easy for anyone to get into it and at least play it at a pretty good level. And obviously getting it to the highest level takes a little bit more, but at least getting that very good competent level is easy with it. So I think it deserves the A tier.
I mean, I don't know what you mean about it not needing a high skilled player. There is a lot of effort that goes into pressing turret mode and then all the other buttons. High skill healing striker. Deacon, how about you?
Yeah, I'm just putting him S. He was the definition of the meta. Stego had more tanking capabilities in terms of flat health. Tricera was just a damage pool to all ends. He could eat damage anytime. just super high damage intake, very good defensive, and he did have some decent damage output. You pretty much always wanted one on your team.
Short and sweet again, Thellian.
Yeah, for me, Tricera is once again another easy S tier for me to put on. You know, actually has some solid damage. I don't think either Charlotte or Deacon touched upon this, but he's got the healing drones, which can bring some nice little like secondary healing to that bunker meta when everyone's kind of grouped up. And of course, you know, high damage reduction when he takes a specific, you know, amount of damage, which just makes him incredibly, incredibly tanky and, you know, very time consuming to kill.
Gotcha. And the final question I want to ask about Trike, one word answers, Charlotte. Does Trike do too much damage?
No.
Deacon?
No.
Thellian?
He's got some good burst. That's what he's got.
Okay.
He's got some decent burst with the howitzer, but other than that, not too much. And the howitzers are slow to reload.
Now, we come on to the final striker in our list, Welkin. Charlotte isn't even letting me finish, and it's going up in the Welkin tier. I love it. So, Charlotte, explain your thoughts on Welkin.
Welkin's in a tier of his own. He has every tool you could want. So much solid like damage, so much utility. Is just able to really define the meta around him too. You know, you can send him off to a side point, and if they're not fast enough to get close to him and whatever, he can just put a box up, cap a point for free. No, very few like other strikers can get through that box quickly. You know, anytime you see a Welkin, you have to answer it. You have to know how you're gonna play around this Welkin. Like if you can capitalize on killing a Welkin, great, first priority. You know, the number of times where we prioritize Welkin over anything else just to bring it off the board, and still weren't able to, even with a lot of pressure on them. It's so insanely good of a striker, and it honestly has way too many tools. Of like, if anything needs a nerf, I'm sorry, Thellian, it's Welkin.
I love the directed at Thellian part. That's great. Deacon?
I'm just going S tier. It's very simple. He very strong in terms of most gameplay mechanics, very good objective capping, very good team fighting, and then very good defensiveness with his haze and the frontal shields. And also very good anti-Welkin because of the flashbangs, able to disrupt his own shields. So he kind of he does everything you ever want in a mech. I think just S tier is just it's just there.
And finally, Thellian.
So I'm in agreement with Charlotte. He is just simply in a tier of his own, and that is the buff Welkin tier, because I wholeheartedly believe he needs buffs. Anyway, to really get into the nitty gritty of just what made Welkin so insane is just he is, like, you know, Charlotte said, he is kind of the point man. He is the quarterback. He is the star player. He's got, you know, the box, you know, to absorb damage for the bunker comp. And the craziest thing about the box that neither of Deacon or Charlotte touched upon was when box is destroyed, it does not go on its full cooldown. Its cooldown is based on how long it is up. So if it is insta-popped the moment it's brought up, he's just absorbed 55k HP or damage, and now his box is on a 3-second cooldown that comes back up with full HP once again, which actually almost punishes you for dealing with the box too early, which is problematic when you have, you know, your Welkin is trying, or the enemy Welkin is trying to cap an OBJ. Maybe you have your own Welkin go in and flash the box, and suddenly, you know, 3-second cap point, and, you know, suddenly you have to have the Welkin and the other Welkin really just fight it out. But to me, again, it's flashbang. He can flash off healing drones off of people. He could pretty much, like, his whole anti-drone, again, like Deacon said, also very anti-Welkin as well. I mean, I think really there's just a lot of points that have already been touched upon that I would just be talking to myself at this point about Welkin. And I do have to say, you know what, and people are going to flame me for this, but yeah, I do kind of think Welkin does need some nerfs, as much as I do preach about buffing Welkin and whatnot. But we'll see with the changes that have been done to Welkin right now. I'm looking forward to it because he's got his kind of his 3 now blocks melee, which will be great because I always felt Welkin was way too bullyable by melee. When I played Alysnes or Panther, like Welkin was just a free kill for me. Like that's just how it simply was. But the biggest thing I want to see with his box cooldown is the refund. Will the refund be changed or not? That is the big question. That is what made Welkin, to me, absolutely crazy on top of his 3.
Well, there you have it, everyone. The 3 tier lists from Charlotte, Deacon, and Thellian. Before I full screen them, there's a couple of things I require of the 3 of you first. So we've got a few questions, if you don't mind answering those. The first 2 come from Cutie Booty Patootie in the Twitch chat, which is, what map do you pick Aquila as the last slot on your team and not one of the other strikers? Start with Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean anywhere where Aquila can have those good firing lanes, you know. So something like Cape Blanc, it can be really good on. Yeah, I have Misra surprisingly does really well on despite having that inside point. Um, you know, so there's a lot of room there. I think there's a lot of arguments though of Aquila versus some other stuff at times, even on maps that it is good on. Um, so Sky City, I really like Aquila on, and definitely would pick that very often. With that good consistent damage and keeping that high ground. So yeah.
Wait, Deacon?
For me, the maps Sky City, Misra, Sinkhole are 3 maps I love having an Aquila on. Those are the 3 maps I think he shines the best in. Cape Blanc as well, I believe.
Mhm.
Cape Blanc, though, Skyraider can also do the job he would. So Cape Blanc is a mix in between both. But Sky City, Misra, and what's it? And yeah, Sky City,
Sinkhole.
Misra, what's
Yeah,
Sinkhole? Yeah,
I
those are
agree.
3
I actually
maps.
agree about Sinkhole too. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
those are 3 maps I want an Aquila on.
Mm-hmm. I will just say that Sinkhole is basically just a smaller version of the Mashmac map, so Aquila is like a must-have. It's all of it is
Mhm.
open. It can have Overwatch on every square inch of the field. Such a good map for Aquila. And Thellian, what about you?
So for me, with Aquila, I don't really think there's ever a bad map for me to pick him. Like I have him put an A for like a reason. He's definitely not a bad. He doesn't make up kind of like the 4 core, but he is a solid damage pick that just to me you just cannot go wrong with on any map. At least in my opinion.
Mhm.
I'm always happy to have an Aquila.
I mean, yeah, so am I, to be honest. It's just, if they're good, you're getting lots of damage off, and that's only a good thing.
Absolutely.
So, second question. During the beta, on a team of Trike, Stego, Luminae, Welkin, Inferno, Alysnes, who were you swapping out for Aquila?
I mean, so we did a lot. We swapped out the trike for the Aquila. That said, I don't know if that's necessarily the best. It was the best for who we had there at the Invitational and how we played, but uh, I think I probably would tend towards swapping out the Inferno if we were a different team with different players. But it's a tough thing.
Yeah. And Deacon.
Yeah, I would. The Inferno is an option I would swap off. Depending on what I want the comp to do, I could swap off the Alysnes. And what we didn't run a trike because we didn't have multiple people playing super heavies. But trike, so that's what we would take out normally. But I believe trike should be like the perfect team comp would be trike, Stego, Luminae minimum, Welkin as well. That's 4. Then the next 2 would be Trike, Stego, Luminae, Welkin. Yeah, the next 2 would be per choice. Inferno was a very good option, very safe for most picks. And then afterwards, Aquila, Alysnes, Skyraider, Falcon, even Hurricane sometimes were picks you would put in there.
Nice one. And Thellian.
Yeah, so for me, I gotta say it probably like Charlotte said, for me it comes down to just the trike, or like again in a perfect world, I would probably just swap off the Inferno for an Aquila. just because like I think Inferno just falls a little bit short, whereas Aquila not so much. But if I had to choose in the context of our team, it would be the Trike, and I would maybe swap in like a Skyraider or a Falcon for that.
Nice.
Just based on like our teammates and what they play and specialize in.
Yeah, just for clarity, for those who may not be aware, these three are from Team ORCA. So not only is it interesting that they have quite different opinions on some of the strikers, but of course they know who plays in their team and what strikers they play. So it's even more interesting to see who they would replace for an Aquila. I said Aquila, damn it. And the final question comes from Machiavellius. What would it take for Panther to climb your tiers up a notch?
More damage, honestly. Hit that combo back that we talked about. I don't want it to climb the tiers, maybe get up to like a C tier, but I honestly never want to see it in competitive. I don't think it has a place. I think it's not, it shouldn't be in competitive. Oh, that's my thoughts.
Short and sweet again. And Deacon?
To make him better,
To push
pretty
him up
much
the
just adding the
tiers.
combo. Yeah, add the combo back. That would probably put him back to B tier, minimum A tier, and then that's a very big factor. Being able to just one shot a lot of like, this is especially very good mechs like Luminae. Getting caught by Panther would just if it meant instant death, that probably brings him up at least to A tier, same tier as her.
Thellian?
Yeah, same exact thing. Just fix the dagger and the lance combo, and that would just do wonders for Panther as a melee.
Yeah. Sorry, Charlotte, you're outnumbered. Thellian and Deacon want Panther to move up, so it has to happen. Chris, if you're watching, you're definitely not. There you go. That's how you fix Panther. You put the shield blade into lance combo back in, and everybody loves Panther again. Yeah, if there are no more questions, no problem. You are very welcome for the answers, and of course to our wonderful guests. So the last two things I want to do is first we are going to full screen Charlotte's, then we'll do Deacon's, then we'll do Thellian's. But if you could also just save or download them so that we can put them in the Discords and stuff so that people can see what your opinions are.
Oh, I've already posted mine, and I've already gotten some people sending some responses about it. So
love it. So yeah, I will just post the Discord links again. I'll just read through it as well. The Mecha BREAK official Discord is the first one. The EU/Mecha Broken, run by Seven Lyrics and Gunlay, is the second one. NA Mecha Scrim, run by our very own Charlotte, who's on the pod at the moment. Second is the third link, and then the final link is Mecha Box, run by Millennium and Puppet. Go to those, become part of the community. We have so many different things going on, especially in NA at the moment, but there are some pretty big things happening for EU as well. And the fact that Mecha BREAK comes out in like just over a week is awesome. And if you're NA, EU, or even APAC, and you just want to integrate yourselves with the wider community, please go to these Discords because they're all really fun to be a part of. So yeah, I'll just full screen yours anyway, Charlotte, so that we can have a look. Fit to screen. Oh, no, not fit to screen. I need to do the other one. Stretch to screen. There we go. It's horrible quality, but as we can see here, let me take these off. So you can see this is a very professional operation here. So this first one is Charlotte's. If you just want to scroll down a little bit for us to see C and D.
Yeah.
Sweet. Lovely. Thank you very much. We're going to hide that. And then we'll do Deeks. Stretch to screen. Oh, I need to hide this one. Oh, no, I'm doing it wrong. There we go. And we hide that. And then we'll full screen Thellian. Stretch to screen. I still hate that top category with a passion. And finally, if I can just get your thoughts on release, what you're hoping for. If there's anything in particular, just go wild for it. Then I'll let you plug whatever you want. I'll do some self-plugging, lol, and then we will end. So first we'll start with Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, I think the release is shaping up really well. There's a lot of good changes that were made to the systems as a whole, but also to all the individual strikers. Like, I have never been more hopeful about the game and its current state and where it's releasing from. Obviously, we haven't seen all of it, but everything we're seeing, it shows that they're going the right direction. They're doing good things. You know, they're listening to the feedback. So, you know, I'm really happy with where release will be, at least right now. So I'm looking forward to that quad melee and Naru and Lumi comp though. I do want someone to do it. That's a challenge out there to anyone listening, but yeah, other than that, I'm also looking forward to playing Pinaka again and it being in a good spot.
I think Gunlay during the last Moonbow Network wanted sextuple melee at some point. Just 6 melee strikers flying around the battlefield, no range whatsoever. I think I'm down for that comp as well, to be honest. But yeah, if you want to take on Charlotte's challenge, you know what? If we get to a point where we can do that and you successfully win, I don't know, a tournament or a local or whatever the hell happens in the future, I'll gift you subs or I'll make shirts or I'll do something.
I'll put up a bounty of my own. If you run quad melee against Team ORCA and you beat us, I will give you $100 happily.
Well, there you go. Gauntlet thrown. If you quad melee against ORCA in any tournament in any capacity and you win, Charlotte herself will give you $100. So Deacon, what are you looking forward to? What do you hope to see? XYZ?
I'm looking forward to playing the game. That's the big thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what because I know for a fact they've changed some mechs around. I'm looking forward to see what's in store and what's new. I can't wait to see how the meta is going to change and how we're going to have to adapt to beat it.
Nice. Deacon's very short.
Also, more Mesh mech is going to be cool.
Also, more Mesh mech. Yes, I want more MMK. I love it. I don't care what anybody says. It's awesome. And Thellian, what about you?
Yeah, I'm just very, very excited to, finally be able to play the game again. And one of the things I'm most looking forward to, especially in I guess, if I was to look at it as the perspective from a new player standpoint, is just the availability of the strikers now. Because if we remember from the previous beta, we actually had to grind for those strikers, which that turned off a lot of people, and a lot of people did not want to do that. But now to be able to just basically make your pilot jump into the game and just be able to play whatever Stego, Panther, one of the kind of more expensive strikers that were, if I remember from the beta. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Panther was hella expensive, wasn't he?
Oh yes.
Was he the second most expensive behind
he was
technically
the
Inferno?
most expensive at 68k credits, if I remember correctly.
That's mental.
I remember grinding a lot of Mashmac just to do that, and then they dropped all the the apology core right for the I guess the rough sort of start to the beta.
That is true. Look, the Corite crates, the ultimate maintenance boxes, they were really appreciated. Hopefully they come back in some kind of capacity for Mashmac, but regardless, it was really nice of them to do that and acknowledge what the fan base was concerned about.
Absolutely.
Right. Final 2 things. Anything any of you want to plug? The Discords, channels, the profiles, whatever.
I will happily plug the Mecha Scrim Discord. We have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff planned. July 12th, we have two 1v1 tournaments, technically, one with Ali, one with Falcon. July 13th, we have a set of show matches from some of the existing competitive teams. We have a whole series of Mecha University classes where we teach about the various strikers and how to get better at them. So come join the Discord, get involved. There's a lot of other stuff yet to be announced that's even bigger. So I'm excited where it's going.
Hell yeah. Deacon, anything to plug?
Nope.
Fair enough. Thellian?
So I don't own the server in particular, but I do want to plug or at least mention the Mecha Broken Discord server. because
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Gunley. I love the EU people. I would really, really like to see EU kind of come into the spotlight, and to see EU come into the spotlight, I wholeheartedly believe we need more connection with that community and more people in that community to kind of bring the competition there.
Yeah, I think Gunn mentioned this, that EU
Yes.
is technically the weakest region right now, probably possibly not just in terms of competitive viability, but also numbers wise. I just don't think we are the strongest at the moment, and we need to fix that. We need to be able to compete with NA and APAC, obviously in a friendly way, but
Absolutely.
it makes everything better when all the people are on the same skill level, or at least as close to as possible. So hopefully we can things like this and the things that Gunlay and Lyrics are planning for the Discord will build on that hype. Awesome. I will just finally plug stuff, and then I will let you go back to doing whatever it is you were doing. So, my name is Danarai. Used to be a professional commentator for Soul Calibur 6, but now I'm moving my attention to Mecha BREAK. I stream a bunch of different stuff. So, if you've enjoyed hearing me prattle on about whatever the hell, please feel free to follow. In terms of Mecha BREAK, we have the Moonbow Network, which gets uploaded to YouTube a couple of days afterwards. I also have a lore podcast with Az, who's one of the mods in the main official Discord. We just talk about lore stuff because the lore of this game is massive, and there's only going to be more as the seasons carry on and the game grows. Finally, I want to thank Team ORCA for joining me on the podcast. Thank you so much for giving me almost 2 hours of your time. Actually, 3 hours, because I asked you here an hour earlier to do tech. So.
No, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you on the 23rd. I should just put this in the chat, actually. I'm an idiot. There we go. That is the link to the YouTube pre-recorded video of Chris, who's going to be... brain's not working. 23rd, there's going to be a Mecha BREAK thing happening. Follow that link. Make sure it notifies you, and let's all enjoy it together. I'll be doing a restream. I'm sure there are going to be loads of others, but if you want to join me, I'll be doing it when the video starts. One final time, thank you, take care, stay safe, and I will see you when I see you.